Well, I'd like to thank Anthony for inviting me tonight, and the rest of the nights, and all of you that came out tonight who want to listen to what happened in Fatima. Fatima is located about 90 miles north of Lisbon. It's a tiny village in the mountain area called Maria-Fatima. Lucia was born and was the youngest of 6 children in her family. And of course she was treated as the baby, of course, and was spoiled and everything like that. As she was growing up, her cousins, Jacinta and Francisco, lived just down the street from her. When Lucy became 7 years old, her mother decided it was time for her to go to work. Imagine telling your kids 7 years old you're going to work. Well, her older sisters were like 12 and 13 at the time, and they had to raise money for the family, and they were sent out to do sewing and knitting and taking care of the children. And at the time, they were taking care of the flock, all the sheep that belonged to the family. So their mother decided that Lucy was old enough to take care of the flock. And it was like 30 to 50 sheep that she had to take care of. So her first day out into the pasture, there was a lot of other shepherds there who wanted to befriend her and tell her what to do and make her feel at home. And the next day, the following day, as she first went out there, the whole mountainside was covered with shepherds with their flocks who wanted to be friends of Lucy. And she picked out 2 other girls to help her, who also had their own shepherd herds. And so they became friends. And this was when she was 7 years old. And during this time of 7 years old and 8 years old, as they were in the hillside watching the flocks, they would pray the rosary at noontime every day and then have their lunch. But 3 times during this time, as they were praying the rosary, they were up high on the hillside. It was called the Cova da Iria. And as they looked down into the valley, which was all olive trees and fig trees, they saw a figure standing above the trees. It was a human figure, but it was way off, and it was completely white and almost crystallized when the sun hit it. And they didn't know what it was because the girl, Lucy, what is that? And she says, I don't know. And it stayed with them as they prayed the rosary on 3 different occasions. So Lucy didn't say anything about this when she went home, but the other 2 girls told their families what they saw. And it got back to Lucy's mother, and Lucy's mother was quite strict with her. She didn't believe anything that happened in Fatima to begin with, even during the apparitions. And she says, what is this nonsense, Lucia, that you hear? I hear that you saw something out in the trees. And Lucy said, I don't know what it was, but it looked like someone was wrapped in a sheet. That's what it looked like. But it was a human figure. And her mother said, oh, this child is nonsense, and she let it go. But it happened 3 different times. When Lucy turned 10, she was still tending the sheep, and at this time of her life, her 2 cousins, Francisco and Jacinta, they kept pestering their parents to let them go with Lucia to watch the sheep. And so they finally consented to it. At this time, Lucia was 10, as I said. Francisco was 9 years old, and little Jacinta was 7 years old. Well, it was a bright, sunny day. It was May 13th, 1917. It was beautiful. It was Sunday, sun was out, and after Mass, they brought the sheep into the Cova da Iria. This cova belonged to Lucy's father. It's a big piece of property where they tended many sheep and grew many trees, fig trees like that. And off they went on this day to care for the sheep. And they were praying the rosary. It was noontime. And back in those days, they used to say their own fast way, Our Father, Hail Mary, Hail Mary, Hail Mary, Hail Mary, Hail Mary. 5 decades like that. And they used to do that every day. So 7 days a week they used to go and do this. But on May 13th, as they were praying the rosary, they saw this big flash of light. And it was a clear day, they didn't know what was going on. So Lucy said, a storm must be coming because they were on one side of this mountain, and usually the storms would just come up on the other side and just rain just out of nowhere. So Lucy said, we better head home. I think a thunderstorm's coming. And then another flash of light that took place. And it was so brilliant and light that Lucy was afraid, so they started to head home right away. And as they got halfway down into the cove, again, the third flash of light came. And as they looked up, they saw this beautiful lady standing on a 3-foot-tall holm oak tree. And Our Lady said to them, don't be afraid. I won't harm you. Come closer. And they did. And Lucy said, Our Lady was surrounded with this light that radiated from her, that we were inside this light by the time we got close to her. And Lucy said, where do you come from? Our Lady said, I come from heaven. Well, what do you want of me? I want you to come here for 6 months in succession, on the same day, 13th, at the same hour. Then I will tell you in October who I am and what I want of you. Continue to pray the rosary every day for peace in the world. And then Lucy thought of her 2 friends that she played with at home. One was 16 years old, and they both died young at their young age. The youngest one was 16 years old. Her name was Maria. And Lucy said to Our Lady, is Maria in heaven? And Our Lady said, yes, Maria is in heaven. And then Lucy said, what about my friend Amelia, who was about 18 years old? And Our Lady said, Amelia is in purgatory until the end of the world. And then Lucy said, I have a request that someone in my village is very sick. Would you cure him? And Our Lady said, if he is converted during the year, I will convert him during this coming year. But Our Lady said, pray the rosary every day. And she ascended into the east. And Lucy said, we saw her go up into the firmament, and it seemed like this light that came from Our Lady was opening up the gate of heaven and letting her in. Before Our Lady left them, she lowered her hands, and rays of light came down upon the 3 children, and they were enveloped in the light of God. They were in the presence of God. God wrapped himself around them. And all they could say is, my God,